My grandfather's fork scraped against the bone china plate. That sound, like a nail dragged across glass. The whole table went quiet. 23 of us. Crystal glasses. Silver candlesticks. The 12-foot Douglas fir in the corner, strung with white lights that never flickered because he paid someone to check the wiring every December 15th. He set the fork down, wiped his mouth with a linen napkin. The napkin ring was gold. Everything in this house was gold or mahogany or something that cost more than my car. Eleanor, he said. His voice carried. It always carried. 78 years old, and his lungs were still the strongest thing in the room. Still in that little place on Maple Street? I felt my mother's hand find my knee under the table. Squeeze. A warning. A plea. The same pressure she'd applied every holiday since my father died. I kept my eyes on my plate. Green bean casserole. My mother had driven 3 hours with it in a cooler because last year grandfather complained the caterer's green beans were too al dente. Yes, grandfather. Still there. He leaned back. The mahogany chair creaked. He'd had that chair for 40 years. He had it reupholstered every 5 years. The leather on the armrests was worn smooth from his grip. Quite a gift, that house. I remember writing the check. Felt good. Giving a young girl a start. No mortgage. No rent. Just a roof over her head. I cut a piece of roasted pheasant. Chewed. Swallowed. My throat was dried. Yes, grandfather. It was very generous. He smiled. That smile. The one that closed 100 real estate deals. The one that convinced my grandmother to put him in her will instead of her children. I'm thinking, he said, reaching for his wine glass, that generosity ought to be a two-way street. Don't you think? A family helps each other. That's what we do. My cousin Sarah set her wine glass down. The smirk on her face was so wide, I could see her back molars. She was wearing a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than the kitchen renovation I'd been saving for. Beside her, my Uncle Richard nodded along. He always nodded. He'd been nodding at his father for 52 years. What did you have in mind? I asked. Richard's wife is expecting their second. Grandfather gestured with his wine glass toward the far end of the table. My cousin-in-law, Marlene, raised her hand like a contestant on a game show. 3 fingers. The baby was due in 3 months. The bump was round and tight under her designer maternity blouse. They need more space. A proper family home. Something with a yard. Good school district. The room was so quiet I could hear the ice melting in the crystal pitcher. So you want my house, I said. I want you to do the right thing, Eleanor. The gracious thing. That house was always meant to be a family asset. A temporary kindness. It was never really yours. My mother's fingers dug into my knee. Harder now. I could feel the half-moons of her nails through my wool trousers. I set my knife down. The clink against the plate was louder than I intended. Sarah flinched. You gave me that house 5 years ago, I said. You gave it to me at my father's funeral. You said it was his legacy. You said he wanted me to have something secure. Grandfather's smile didn't falter. Your father was a good man. He worried about your future. But he also understood that family comes first. That the greater good of the Crane family. My father is dead. The words came out flat. No tremor. No boble. Just facts. My father is dead. I repeated. And you didn't pay for the funeral. My mother sold her wedding ring to pay for his plot. So forgive me if I'm not feeling particularly gracious right now. My mother let go of my knee. She was staring at her hands. Her wedding ring was gone, replaced by a thin gold band she'd bought at a department store 3 years ago. She never mentioned it. I never asked. Grandfather's eyes narrowed. The smile was gone now. Eleanor, I don't think you understand the position you're in. Then explain it to me. He set his wine glass down. The base hit the polished oak table with a sharp tap. You have no job. No savings. No prospects. You live in a house I gave you. The car you drive was a gift from your mother. The clothes on your back, I imagine those were purchased with the small inheritance your father left behind. He leaned forward. You have nothing. I have everything. And what I have I intend to keep. My chest went cold. Not the cold of fear. the cold of certainty. What do you want from me? I asked. I want you to sign a document. A simple statement. The house was a loan, not a gift. It belongs to the family. I want you to acknowledge that in writing, and I want you to vacate the premises by the end of January. And if I don't, he smiled again. That same smile. But this time his eyes didn't join in. Then I will make your life very, very difficult. I'll sue you for the property. I'll drag you through court for 2 years. I'll make sure every lawyer in the state knows you're a difficult, litigious young woman who can't be trusted. And I will ensure that when it's over, you walk away with nothing. I looked around the table. 23 people. My mother had bowed. My Aunt Patricia, pretending to be fascinated by her wine. My cousin Sarah, still smirking. My Uncle Richard, nodding like a puppet. No one spoke. No one moved. Why now? I asked. Why the public humiliation? You could have called me. You could have made this quiet. You could have bought me out and never spoken to me again. Grandfather's hand rested on the table. His fingers were thick, calloused, the hands of a man who'd worked in construction until he got rich enough to stop. Those hands were trembling, just barely. There are some documents missing, he said. Old tax records, financial statements, some papers your father kept in his home office. Before he died. My stomach clenched. The pheasant sat in my gut like a stone. You want me to lie? I said. You want me to sign something that says I don't remember those documents, that they never existed. I want you to protect the family legacy. I want you to protect yourself. His hand slammed down on the table. Silverware jumped. My mother gasped. Sarah's wine glass wobbled and tipped, sloshing Merlot across the white tablecloth. Watch your mouth, Eleanor. Or what? You'll have me killed? Like you killed my father? The room went completely silent. Grandfather's face went pale. Not the pale of anger. The pale of discovery. The pale of a man who's just realized he's been seen. Get out, he whispered. I'm just saying what everyone here is thinking, I said. My father was healthy. He was healthy and then he was dead, and the doctor said there was something in his system that shouldn't have been there. And you were the one who hired the nurse. I said, get out. I pushed my chair back. The legs screeched against the hardwood floor. The sound was awful. I wanted to hear it again. I walked around the table. My mother reached for my wrist. I pulled away at the door. I turned. I'm going home, I said. To my house. The one you gave me. And I'm going to go through every box, every folder, every piece of paper my father ever touched. And if I find something, if I find anything that proves what you did, I'm going to destroy you. Grandfather stood up. His chair toppled backward. Richard lunged to catch it. You don't have the guts, Grandfather said. You're weak. Just like your father. I walked out. The foyer was dark. The grandfather clock chimed 7. The same clock that had been chiming in this house for 80 years. I grabbed my coat from the hall closet and pulled my phone from the pocket. The phone was already unlocked. I'd been holding it the whole time. In my left hand, pressed against my thigh, the screen facing up, the voice memo app was open. The red recording bar had been glowing for the past 8 minutes. I stopped in the driveway. The snow was coming down hard. My car was covered in white. I brushed it off with my bare hands, and the cold bit through my skin like teeth. I hit stop? Save the recording. Then I dialed the number I'd typed into my contacts earlier this morning. A number I'd found in my father's old address book. A number for a woman named Margaret, my cousin. The one who'd been disowned. The one who'd become a lawyer. It's Eleanor, I said when she answered. I need your help. I have something you're going to want to hear. The snow kept falling. The house behind me was bright with Christmas lights. I could hear the muffled sound of voices through the walls. Arguing. Someone was yelling, and Margaret's voice crackled through the phone. Are you okay? I looked at the house. The warm light spilling out the dining room windows. The shadow of my grandfather pacing behind the curtains. I'm not okay, I said. But I will be. The snow was cold on my face. My hands were numb. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear the blood in my ears. I'm ready to fight, I said. I should have done this 5 years ago, but I'm doing it now. I got in my car, turned the ignition, The heat blew lukewarm across my frozen fingers. And Margaret? I found something in my father's things. Something I think you need to see. What is it? I pulled a folder from my glove box. The folder I'd been carrying since the afternoon. The one with my father's handwriting on the front. The deed to the house, I said. The original deed. From the year before he died. And a letter. A typed letter from my grandfather. Something he didn't intend anyone to see. I heard Margaret inhale. Sharp. Quick, where are you right now? I'm in the driveway. I'm leaving. Don't go home, she said. Come to my office. I'll meet you there. Bring everything. Every piece of paper you have. I put the car in drive. The headlights cut through the snow. I'll be there in an hour, I said. I pulled out of the driveway. The Christmas lights in the windows disappeared behind me. The house shrank in the rear-view mirror, but my grandfather was still pacing. I could see his shadow against the curtains. He didn't know what I had. He didn't know what was coming, but he was about to find out. The office was on the third floor of a brick building on the edge of downtown. No sign on the door. Just a number stenciled in black paint. I had to buzz 3 times before the lock clicked open. The stairs smelled like old carpet and coffee. The kind of smell that doesn't leave. Margaret was waiting in the doorway. She wore jeans and a sweater with a coffee stain on the sleeve. Her hair was pulled back in a clip. Under her eyes, the shadows were deep enough to be bruises. You look terrible, she said. I pushed past her into the office. A desk, 2 chairs, a filing cabinet with 1 drawer hanging open. On the wall, a framed law degree from a school I'd never heard of. You don't look much better, I said. She closed the door behind me. Locked it. Let me hear the recording. I pulled out my phone. Hit play. My grandfather's voice filled the room. Tinny. Distorted. But clear enough. Oh, asterisk, you have nothing. I have everything. And what I have I intend to keep. Asterisk. Margaret sat down. Her hands were flat on the desk. Her knuckles were white. Asterisk. I want you to sign a document. A simple statement. The house was a loan, not a gift. Asterisk. She leaned forward. Didn't blink. To asterisk. There are some documents missing. Old tax records. Financial statements. Some papers your father kept in his home office. Asterisk. The recording kept playing. My voice. My grandfather's voice. The slam of his hand on the table. The screech of my chair. Margaret didn't move until it was over. Jesus, she said. He admitted it. He practically admitted it. He admitted he wanted me to lie. He didn't admit to killing my father. She shook her head. Doesn't matter. This recording establishes a pattern. Intimidation. Witness tampering. Attempted coercion. It gives us leverage. She pulled a legal pad toward her. What else did you find? I opened my bag. Took out the folder. The one my father had hidden in the closet. The original deed, I said. Signed by both of them. Notarized. Dated 6 months before my father died. Margaret took the document. Her eyes moved across the page. She turned it over, checked the back, checked the margins. Airtight, she said. This is a valid gift deed. Your grandfather can't contest it. He can't take it back. She looked up. But you already knew that. I nodded. There's more. I pulled out the letter. The typewritten one. The one my grandfather had sent to my father 2 weeks before his death. Asterisk. William, please accept the enclosed property deed as a token of my appreciation for your years of service. However, you understand that this gift is contingent upon your continuing discretion regarding our business arrangements. Any deviation from this understanding will result in the immediate revocation of all benefits. Consider this your final warning. Asterisk. Margaret read it once. Then again, threat, she said. Clear and documented threat. If your father didn't stay quiet, he'd lose everything. I pointed to the bottom of the page. My father's handwriting. A single sentence, cramped and small to the asterisk for Eleanor. So she knows the truth if I don't make it. Asterisk. Margaret set the letter down. Her hands were steady, but her eyes weren't. Your father knew, she said. He knew his life was in danger. He hid the evidence. He set you up to find it. He didn't set me up. He just couldn't bring himself to tell me directly. She looked at me. Eleanor, I'm going to ask you something. And I need you to be honest with me. I waited. Did your father ever talk to you about what he was working on about the business? I closed my eyes. Tried to remember. Not really. He'd come home tired. He'd say your grandfather was demanding. He'd say he wished he could quit. But he never told me why. Margaret picked up her pen. What about the nurse? Do you remember anything about her? A name, a face. I opened my eyes. Janet. Or Janice. Something with a J. She was older. Gray hair. She wore a white uniform and a cross around her neck. I paused. She always smelled like peppermint. Like candy canes. That's specific. Because she gave me peppermints. Every time I visited. She said they were for my nerves. I sat down in the chair across from Margaret. I was nervous all the time. I was watching my father die. I was watching my mother fall apart. And this woman, this nurse who was supposed to be helping, she kept feeding me peppermints and telling me it would all be over soon. Margaret's pen stopped moving. Did your father take digoxin? She asked. Every day. Twice a day. For his heart. And the nurse administered it. Most of the time. Sometimes my mother did. But the nurse was there every afternoon. She'd come in, check his vitals, give him his pills, and leave. Margaret made a note on her legal pad. The scratch of the pen was loud in the silence. I need you to find out more about that nurse, she said. Full name. Last known address. Anything. How? You're still part of the family. You still talk to your mother. You still have access to your grandfather's house. Find out who hired her. Find out where she went. My chest felt tight. You think she's still alive? If she is, we need to find her. She might be the only person who can testify about what happened. The office was cold. The heat was off. I pulled my coat tighter. What about the financial records? I asked. The ones my father kept in the box. Margaret pushed the legal pad aside. I'll have to go through them. All of them. It could take days. Maybe weeks. We don't have weeks. My grandfather is going to move fast. He's going to cover his tracks. He doesn't know we have the box. He doesn't know about the letter. He doesn't know about the recording. Margaret leaned back in her chair. We have the element of surprise. That's our only advantage. I looked at the folder on the desk. My father's handwriting. My grandfather's threats. Evidence of a crime I'd spent 5 years pretending didn't exist. I don't want to just win, I said. I want him to lose. I want him to lose everything the way he made us lose everything. Margaret nodded. Then we need a plan. A real plan. Not just legal threats. Not just a recording. We need to hit him where he's weakest. Where's that? She pulled a file out of her desk drawer. Thick. Dog-eared. The tab was labeled Crane and Sons, Public Records. Your grandfather has been running his business through a web of shell companies for 20 years. He buys land cheap, sells it to his own shell companies at inflated prices, writes off the losses on his taxes, and splits the profits under the table. She opened the file. The IRS has a name for that. It's called fraud. How much are we talking? At least 2 million. Maybe more. I haven't finished crunching the numbers. You found all of this from public records, most of it. Your father's records gave me the rest. She pointed to a column of figures on one of the pages. Look here. This property was purchased for $40,000. 3 months later, it was sold to a shell company for $200,000. That shell company is owned by a man named Gerald Morrison. Gerald Morrison is your grandfather's golf partner. I should have done this years ago. I said, you weren't ready. You were grieving. You were scared. She set the file down. But you're ready now. So here's what we're going to do. I leaned forward. First, we're going to file a quiet title action on the house. We're going to get a court order confirming that the property is yours. That'll take 2 weeks, tops. And then we're going to send a copy of this recording, just the relevant parts, to your grandfather's attorney. We'll let them know that if they don't back off, we'll make it public. He'll fight it. Of course he'll fight it. That's why we need more ammunition. She tapped the file. I need you to go back to his house. Go through his office. Find his will. Find any documentation related to his estate. That's breaking and entering. It's your grandmother's house. You have a key. And your family. She shrugged. Call it a visit. I thought about it. The risk. The chance of getting caught. The way my grandfather's hands had shaken when he'd slammed the table, he threatened to kill me. I said.
He didn't say it outright.
But he implied it. I heard the recording, Margaret said. I know what he's capable of. So why are we putting me back in his line of fire? She looked at me for a long moment. Then she reached across the desk and put her hand on mine. Because you're the one who can do this, she said. You're the one who's been waiting. You're the one who's been holding the truth. And you're the one who's going to make him pay. I pulled my hand away, stood up. Fine, I said. I'll go back. Tomorrow. I'll find the will. I'll find everything I can. And I'll work on the shell companies, Margaret said. By the time we're done, your grandfather won't have a single dollar left to his name. I walked to the door. My hand was on the knob, Eleanor. I turned. Be careful, Margaret said. He's dangerous. More dangerous than you think. I know, I said. That's why I'm not going to give him a chance to hurt me again. I left the office and walked down the stairs. The snow had stopped. The streets were empty. My car was the only one in the lot that I drove home with my hands tight on the wheel. The folder on the passenger seat felt heavier than it should, like it was filled with more than paper, like it was filled with everything I'd lost and everything I was about to take back. In my kitchen, I made coffee. I didn't sleep. I sat at the table with the financial records spread out in front of me. Page after page of transactions. Names and numbers. Dates and amounts. Somewhere in all of it was the proof I needed. The proof that my grandfather had stolen more than my father's life. He'd stolen his dignity, his future, his chance to see me grow up. I found the journal again. My father's handwriting. The last entry, December 15th, I'm sending this to the back of the closet. Maybe she'll find it. Maybe she won't. But I need someone to know the truth. If I don't make it, it's because he finally got what he wanted. But I'm not going quietly. I never was. I closed the journal. The coffee was cold in my hands. Tomorrow I'd go back to that house. I'd find his will. I'd find the documents that would tear his empire down. And then I'd make sure he knew exactly who had done it. The sun was coming up over the backyard. The snow was glittering. I watched it through the kitchen window and waited for morning. The house was quiet when I pulled into the driveway. No cars.
No lights.
Just the gray December sky and the bare oak trees lining the front walk. I'd parked 3 blocks away, walked the rest. The key was still on my ring, the one my grandmother had given me when I turned 16. She'd said it was for emergencies. She'd said I'd always have a place in this house. She'd been dead 15 years. But the key still worked. The front door opened without a sound. The foyer smelled like lemon polish and old wool. The grandfather clock was ticking. 10 in the morning. The house was empty. My grandfather never woke before noon. Richard and Sarah were at some brunch in town. The staff was off for the holidays. I had at least 2 hours. I took the stairs 2 at a time. The study was at the end of the hall. Same door. Same painting of my great-grandmother hanging over the fireplace. The safe was still there. I knew the combination. I'd watched him open it 1,000 times. The dial spun under my fingers. The lock clicked inside. The files were stacked in neat rows. I pulled them out one by one. The first was a property deed. The second was a bank statement. The third was a life insurance policy with my name on it. I put it aside. The fourth file was labeled estate planning. I opened it. The will was inside.
Typed. Signed.
Witnessed. Dated 6 months ago. I read it. The will was what I expected. My mother got nothing. Aunt Patricia got nothing. Richard got the house, the business, the majority of the investments. Sarah got a trust fund. I got a single sentence. To my granddaughter Eleanor, I leave the sum of $1, as she has already received more than her fair share. $1. He'd written me out of everything. He'd made sure I'd remember it. I took a photo of every page. The next file was a list of accounts. Offshore accounts. Bank names I didn't recognize. Numbers with too many digits. I took photos of those too. The last file was thin. A single sheet of paper. A memo, typewritten, dated 3 months before my father's death. To all employees of Crane and Sons. Please be advised that William Crane has been relieved of his duties effective immediately. Any inquiries regarding Mr. Crane's work should be directed to the undersigned. The company wishes Mr. Crane well in his future endeavors and thanks him for his years of service. Asterisk, my father had been fired 3 months before he died. He'd never told me. He'd never told anyone. He just kept going to work, kept pretending, kept covering for a man who had thrown him away like garbage. I folded the memo and put it in my pocket. Footsteps on the stairs. I froze. The safe was still open. The files were spread across the desk. I couldn't close it in time. The footsteps stopped outside the door. I grabbed a file at random, stuffed it under my coat, slammed the safe shut, turned the dial. The door swung open. My mother stood in the doorway. Her eyes were wide. Her hand was still on the knob.
Eleanor, she said.
What are you doing here, Mom? I thought you were at home. I thought you were resting. She stepped into the room, looked at the safe,
looked at me.
What did you find? Nothing. Eleanor, your hand is shaking. You're holding something under your coat. Show me. I pulled out the file, the one I'd grabbed at random.
It was a personnel file.
My father's name was on the tab. You're going through his things, she said. You're looking for something. Mom, I need to tell you something, but I need you to sit down.
She didn't sit.
She just stood there, her hands clasped in front of her, waiting. Your father didn't die from a heart attack, I said. He was given too much digoxin. He died because someone who had access to his medication wanted him dead. The words hung in the air. My mother's face went pale. She sat down in the chair by the window. Her hands were in her lap. She stared at them. Your grandfather hired the nurse, I said. He hired her to take care of your father. But he also used her to do something. Something that killed him. Eleanor, you can't know that. I know it. I have proof. Coroner's report. The nurse's handwriting on the medication log. And a letter. A letter your father wrote to me before he died.
He knew what was happening.
He knew he was in danger. My mother's hands were trembling. Why didn't he tell me? Because he was trying to protect you. He knew grandfather would hurt you too. He knew there was nothing you could do. She looked up at me. Her eyes were wet. What are you going to do? I'm going to fight him, I said. I'm going to take everything he has. I'm going to make sure he can never hurt anyone again. How? I have a lawyer. Margaret. She's helping me. We're going to file a quiet title action on the house. We're going to expose his tax fraud. And we're going to make sure the family knows what he did. My mother looked down at her hands. The thin gold band. The one she'd bought to replace the ring she'd sold. I knew, she said. I didn't know how, but I knew he had something to do with it. Your father was afraid of him. He was afraid of what he'd do. Mom, I need you to tell me everything. Everything you remember about the nurse. About the medication. About grandfather's visits. She closed her eyes. The nurse's name was Janice Morrison, she said. She came every day at 3 o'clock. She gave him his medicine. She checked his vitals. And then she left. She opened her eyes. I never liked her. She was too efficient. Too professional. Like, she didn't care about the man she was caring for. Did she ever say anything about grandfather about the medication? No.
She paused.
But I remember her hands. She had a ring. A gold ring with a small diamond. And she'd always twist it when she talked about your grandfather. Like she was nervous. Janice Morrison, I said. The same last name as the golf partner. My mother looked at me. What golf partner? Grandfather's friend. Gerald Morrison. I think Janice is his daughter. Or his wife. I don't know. I never asked. I pulled out my phone. Typed the name into a search engine. The results came up quickly. Janice Morrison. Age 63. Former nurse. Currently residing in Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix, I said. She moved to Phoenix. Eleanor, what are you doing? I'm going to find her. I'm going to talk to her. I'm going to find out what she knows. My mother stood up. You can't just go to Phoenix. You don't have the money. You don't have the time. I have the money. I have savings. I have a credit card. And I have 2 weeks before grandfather starts his lawsuit. I put my phone in my pocket. I'm going to Phoenix. I'm going to find Janice Morrison. And I'm going to get her to tell me the truth. The study was quiet. The grandfather clock was ticking. Downstairs, I heard a door open. Voices. I think we need to leave, I said. He's home. We went down the back stairs. The kitchen was dark. The staff had the day off. Through the window, I could see my grandfather's car pulling up the driveway. My mother grabbed my arm. Eleanor, please be careful. I will, I said. And, Mom, I need you to act normal. I need you to act like you don't know anything.
Can you do that? She nodded.
I can do that. I left through the back door. The cold air hit me like a wall. I walked to the end of the block and got in my car, but the file was on the passenger seat. My father's personnel file. I opened it. There were performance reviews. Old pay stubs. A letter of recommendation from my grandfather himself, dated 5 years before my father died. And there, at the bottom of the file, a photograph. It was a group photo. Construction workers. Executives. My grandfather in the front row, smiling. And there, in the back, my father. He wasn't smiling. Beneath the photo, a note in my grandfather's handwriting. Asterisk, William Crane. Loyal employee, good worker, and disposable. Asterisk, I threw the file in the back seat. Started the car. Drove straight to Margaret's office. She was at her desk. Piles of paper everywhere. A half-eaten sandwich on the corner. She looked up when I came in. Find anything, everything, I said. His will. The offshore accounts. And a name. I slid the photograph across the desk. Janice Morrison, I said. She's the nurse. She's in Phoenix. And I'm going there tomorrow. Margaret looked at the photo. Then at me. Are you sure about this? I'm sure. She's the last piece. The one who can confirm what happened. I leaned over the desk. I need you to do something for me while I'm gone. What? I need you to file the quiet title action. And I need you to send a copy of the recording to his attorney. Let them know we're not backing down. Margaret nodded. I'll do it. But, Eleanor, I know. It's dangerous. I know. I straightened up. But I've been hiding for 5 years. I'm done hiding. Margaret reached for her phone. I'll book you a flight.
No. I'll drive.
It's safer. And I need to think. I left her office and drove home. The roads were clear. The sun was setting down in my bedroom. I packed a bag. A few changes of clothes. The coroner's report. The journal. The photograph. And the recording. I'd have it on my phone. I'd have it ready. I sat on my bed and looked at the photograph. Janice Morrison. Gray hair. White uniform. A cross around her neck. She'd fed me peppermints while my father was dying. She'd administered the medication that killed him, and now she was going to tell me the truth. Whether she wanted to or not, the drive would take 18 hours. I'd leave at dawn. I'd stop for gas and coffee, and nothing else. I had one goal. One mission. I was going to Phoenix. And I was going to bring back the proof that would destroy my grandfather once and for all. The address was a small house on a cul-de-sac in a development called Sunflower Estates.
Peshsoko.
Red tile roof. A palm tree in the front yard that looked like it was struggling. The desert air hit me when I got out of the car.
Dry. Hot.
Wrong for December. I'd been driving for 18 hours. My eyes felt like sandpaper. My back was stiff. I hadn't stopped except for gas and coffee. Now I stood in front of Janice Morrison's front door and tried to remember how to breathe. The door had a wreath on it. Plastic holly. Fake berries. The kind you buy at a drugstore. I knocked. Nothing. I knocked again. Harder. A shadow moved behind the curtain. The door opened a crack. A chain was still on. Who are you? The voice was thin. Older than I remembered. My name is Eleanor Crane, I said. William Crane's daughter. The door started to close. I put my hand on it. Please. I just need to talk to you. I need to know what happened. The chain rattled. The door opened a few inches wider. A woman's face appeared in the gap. Gray hair. Deep wrinkles around her eyes. The cross was still around her neck. I remember you, she said. You used to come to the house. Your father was sick. I gave you peppermints. His heart, I said. You gave him digoxin. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she unhooked the chain and opened the door. Come in, she said. But I can't talk long. The inside of the house was beige. Beige walls.
Beige carpets. Beige furniture.
A television was on in the corner, muted. A game show. The people on screen were smiling as she sat down on a recliner. Her hands were in her lap. The ring was still there, gold with a small diamond. She twisted it. "Your grandfather called me 3 weeks ago," she said. "He told me someone might come asking questions. He said I should tell them nothing." "Did he threaten you?" "He didn't have to. I know what he's capable of." I sat down on the sofa across from her. The cushions were stiff. "What did he do to my father?" She didn't answer. Just kept twisting the ring. "Please," I said. "I've been living with this for 5 years. Not knowing. Wondering. I need to hear it from someone who was there." She looked at me. Her eyes were tired. Tired in a way that said she'd been carrying something heavy for a long time. "Your father was going to leave," she said. "He'd found out about the tax fraud. He'd found out about the shell companies. He was going to go to the IRS. Your grandfather couldn't let that happen. So he killed him. He gave me instructions. Increase the dosage. Just a little. Not enough to cause suspicion. Just enough to push a weak heart over the edge." She looked down at her hands. "I did it. I gave him the extra dose. I watched him die." My stomach turned. I pressed my hand to my mouth. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm so sorry. He told me you'd be taken care of. He told me your family would be fine. He said it was for the greater good." "Greater good," my voice cracked. "You killed my father for the greater good. I had no choice. He had my husband's debts. He had my daughter's medical records. He said if I didn't do it, he'd destroy my whole family."
You said here.
The cross around her neck. The trembling hands. "Did he pay you?" I asked. $30,000.
Cash.
And he paid off my husband's gambling debts. He made it all go away. She met my eyes. "I've been living with this guilt every day. Every single day. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I can't look at myself in the mirror. You should have gone to the police." I was scared. He's a powerful man. He would have killed me too. I pulled out my phone. "Open the voice recorder. I need you to say that again," I said. "I need you to say it on the record." She shook her head. "I can't. He'll find out. He'll come after me. He's going to find out anyway, because I'm going to destroy him. And if you don't help me, I'm going to make sure everyone knows what you did." Janice Morrison looked at the phone. Her hands were shaking. "Please," she said. "There has to be another way." "There isn't. You're the only witness. You're the only one who can tell the truth." I leaned forward. "If you don't do this, he's going to keep hurting people. He's going to keep stealing. He's going to keep destroying lives. And you're going to have to live with that for the rest of your life." She closed her eyes. Her lips moved. I couldn't tell if she was praying. Then she opened her eyes and nodded. "Okay," she said. "I'll do it. But I want immunity. I want a lawyer. I want protection." "I can't promise any of that," I said. "But I can promise that if you help me, I'll make sure everyone knows you were coerced. That you were a victim too." She looked at the phone again. Then she reached out and took it. "I'm going to tell you everything," she said. "And I'm going to say it in my own voice. So you can play it for the police, for the courts, for whoever needs to hear it." She pressed record. "My name is Janice Morrison," she said. "On January 14th, 5 years ago, I administered an overdose of digoxin to William Crane at the direction of his father-in-law, Harold Crane. I was told that if I refused, my family would be harmed. I did it out of fear for my own family's safety." She kept talking. The words came faster. The medication schedule. The phone calls from my grandfather. The cash payments. The threats. Every detail. Every date. That when she finished, she set the phone on the coffee table between us. Her hands were shaking so hard I could hear the ring rattling against the wood. "Now what?" she asked. "Now I'm going to show this to the police," I said. "And then I'm going to show it to everyone else." I picked up the phone. The recording was saved. It was done. It was real. "Thank you," I said. "I know that wasn't easy." She shook her head. "It wasn't easy, but it was right." I stood up, walked to the door. My hand was on the knob when she spoke again. "Eleanor." I turned. "Your father loved you," she said. "He talked about you all the time. Even when he was sick. Even when he was afraid. He always said you were the best thing he'd ever done. My throat closed up. I nodded. I couldn't speak. His last words, she said. He asked me to tell you. He said, tell Eleanor I'm proud of her. And I never told you. I was too scared. But I'm telling you now. I looked at her, at the cross around her neck, at the tears streaming down her face. Thank you, I said. I walked out into the desert heat. The sun was high. The sky was white. I got in my car and sat there for a long time. Then I pulled out my phone and called Margaret. I got it, I said. I got everything. Are you okay? I'm not okay, I said. But I will be. Come home, Margaret said. I'll have everything ready. We're going to win this. I started the car,
Pulled out of the driveway.
the palm trees blurred past. I drove for 8 hours before I had to stop. The sun was setting. I pulled into a truck stop in the middle of nowhere. The parking lot was full of semi-trucks. The air smelled like diesel and fried food. I went inside, bought coffee, sat at a booth by the window, and I listened to the recording again, Janice Morrison's voice. The same voice that had given me peppermints. The same voice that had said it'll all be over soon while she was killing my father. I had it. I had the proof. Everything I needed. But it wasn't enough to just have it. I had to use it. I had to do it right. I called Margaret again. I need a plan, I said. A public plan. Something that makes sure everyone sees what he did. Margaret was silent for a moment. Then, the family dinner. New Year's Eve. Everyone will be there. Everyone, Richard.
Sarah.
Patricia. Your mother. All of them.
She paused.
And your grandfather. He'll be holding court at the head of the table. Just like always. Just like Christmas.
Exactly.
Except this time, you have the proof. I took a sip of coffee. The coffee was terrible. Bitter.
Burned.
I drank it anyway. I need copies of everything, I said. The recording. The financial records. The will. The threats. Everything. I'll have them ready by the time you get back. What about the police? I'll have a detective at the dinner, she said. A family friend. He'll be there to make sure no one leaves. I felt something cold slide down my spine. You're staging a police raid at a family dinner, I said. Not a raid. A quiet presence. Enough to make sure your grandfather can't run. Enough to make sure we can control the situation. I thought about the dining room, the mahogany table, the crystal glasses, the gold napkin rings. My grandfather in his chair, holding court. This is going to destroy him, I said. That's the point. I set the coffee down. The cup was empty. I drunk it all without tasting it. I'll be home tomorrow, I said. Have everything ready. I will, Eleanor. And Eleanor, I'm proud of you. I hung up. The truck stop was noisy. Men talking. Radios crackling. A television hung from the ceiling, playing the news on mute. I looked out the window. The sky was dark now. The parking lot was lit with fluorescent lights. I thought about my father. About his handwriting. About the journal. About the letter he'd written me to asterisk for Eleanor. So she knows the truth if I don't make it. Asterisk, he'd made it.
In a way.
He'd given me the truth, and I was going to use it. I got back in my car and drove through the night. The headlights cut through the darkness. The road stretched out in front of me. I was going home. I was going to finish this. And when it was over, my grandfather would have nothing. He'd have no money, no power, no family, no legacy. He'd have nothing but the truth, and the truth was going to destroy him. The dining room looked exactly the same as it had on Christmas. Same table, same silver, same 12-foot Douglas fir in the corner. The only difference was the clock on the mantel. It was almost 8. New Year's Eve. The champagne was already chilling in the silver bucket. I stood in the foyer and watched them file in. Richard.
Sarah.
Marlene with her bump. Aunt Patricia. My mother, last, her face pale and pinched. She found my hand in the dark and squeezed. Are you sure about this? She whispered. I've never been more sure of anything. The detective was already seated. His name was Tom Hawkins. He wore a suit that didn't quite fit and kept his hands visible on the table. No one had asked who he was. No one ever did. Grandfather took his seat at the head of the table. The mahogany chair creaked. The same sound, the same posture, the same self-satisfied smile. "Eleanor," he said, gesturing to the empty chair beside him. "So glad you could join us. I was worried you might have other plans tonight." I sat down. The chair was cold. The wine glass in front of me was emptied. "I wouldn't miss it," I said. He nodded, satisfied.
Good.
"Good. Now, let's eat. We have so much to discuss." The caterers brought out the first course. Lobster bisque. My mother's hands were shaking so hard she could barely lift her spoon. I put my hand on her wrist under the table. "Steady." Slowed, grandfather launched into his usual monologue. The new development deal. The expansion plans. The legacy he was building for his grandchildren. Sarah nodded along. Richard smiled. I waited. The bisque was cleared. The main course arrived. Roasted beef with potatoes and a sauce that looked like blood. "I didn't touch it, Eleanor," grandfather said, leaning toward me. "I hope you've had time to consider my offer. The transfer of the house. I'd like to get it settled before the new year." I set my fork down. The clink was deliberate. "I've had time," I said. "And I've decided to decline." The table went quiet. The same quiet as Christmas. But this time, I wasn't afraid. "I'm sorry to hear that," grandfather said. His voice was measured, controlled. "I was hoping you'd see reason." "I see reason perfectly clearly," I said. "The house is mine. Legally. Unconditionally. The deed is clear. The gift was absolute. There's nothing you can do to take it back." His smile flickered. "You're making a mistake, Eleanor."
No.
"I'm making a choice. A choice to stop letting you threaten me. A choice to stop letting you manipulate me. A choice to stop pretending I don't know what you did." The silence was absolute. Even the caterers had stopped moving. "I don't know what you're talking about," grandfather said. "Yes, you do." I reached into my bag, pulled out a folder.
Thick.
Heavy. "You killed my father." Richard's fork clattered onto his plate. Sarah made a sound like she'd been punched. My mother was crying silently. "You're delusional," grandfather said. "Your father died of a heart attack. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows what you told them to know." I opened the folder, pulled out the coroner's report, held it up. Elevated digoxin levels. A medication he was prescribed. A medication that was administered in higher doses than recommended. Doses that were recorded by his private nurse. The nurse was a professional. She followed the doctor's orders. "The nurse was Janice Morrison," I said. "The same Janice Morrison who's now living in Phoenix. The same Janice Morrison who recorded a full confession detailing how you instructed her to increase the dosage. How you paid her $30,000. How you threatened her family if she refused." I pulled out my phone. Pressed play. Janice Morrison's voice filled the room.
Clear. Steady.
Damning asterisk. "On January 14th, 5 years ago, I administered an overdose of digoxin to William Crane at the direction of his father-in-law, Harold Crane, asterisk." Grandfather's face went gray. His hands were gripping the armrests of his chair. "Turn that off," he said. "Turn it off now." I didn't turn it off. I let it play to the end, asterisk. I did it out of fear for my own family's safety. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Asterisk. The recording ended. The silence that followed was heavier than anything I'd ever heard. "You're lying," grandfather said. "That's not real. That's a fake. Anyone with a computer could have made that." "Fake." I reached into the folder again, pulled out the financial records. The shell company transactions. The offshore accounts. You want to call all of this fake too? The $2 million in tax fraud, the shell companies owned by your Gulf partners, the offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. Richard's face had gone white. "Dad, what is she talking about?" Grandfather didn't answer.
He was staring at me.
His eyes were wild. His hands were shaking. "Eleanor," he said, his voice low. "This is a game. A dangerous game. You don't know what you're doing." "I know exactly what I'm doing." I pulled out the will. The one I'd photographed in his safe. Richard gets the house. Richard gets the business. Sarah gets a trust fund. I get $1. Sarah's head snapped up. "You get $1, $1, I said. "And that's after he promised me a house. After he promised to take care of me. After he made me believe I was part of this family. This is outrageous, Richard said. This is what happens when you let a monster run your family, I said. This is what happens when you look the other way. When you pretend everything is fine. When you let him destroy people, because it's easier than standing up. My mother was crying. Aunt Patricia was staring at her hands. Grandfather stood up. His chair toppled backward. The crash echoed through the room. Get out, he said. Get out of my house.
I'm not leaving, I said.
Not until everyone here knows the truth. The detective stood up. He pulled a badge from his jacket. Harold Crane, I'm placing you under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, and witness tampering. You have the right to remain silent. Grandfather stared at the badge. His mouth opened. No sound came out. This is a family dinner, Richard said, standing up. You can't do this. Not here. Not tonight. I can do it wherever I want, the detective said. And tonight I'm doing it here. The dining room exploded. Sarah was screaming. Marlene was crying. Richard was trying to get to the detective, but someone was holding him back. I stayed in my chair. Watched it all unfold. Grandfather didn't fight. He didn't scream. He just stood there, his hands at his sides, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. This isn't over, he said, looking at me. You'll regret this. You'll regret this for the rest of your life. No, I said. I won't. Because for the first time in 5 years, I'm not afraid of you. The detective handcuffed him, led him through the dining room, past the 12-foot Douglas fir, through the foyer, out the front door. The grandfather clock was chiming. 11. Almost midnight. The room was still. The food was cold. The champagne was warm. I stood up, walked around the table. My mother was sobbing into her napkin. I put my hand on her shoulder. It's over, I said. It's finally over. Eleanor, Richard said. His voice was hoarse. What happens now? That's up to you, I said. You can keep being his son. You can keep pretending you didn't know.
Or you can do what's right.
That's your choice. He didn't answer. He just sat there, staring at the empty chair at the head of the table. Sarah was still crying. Marlene was on her phone. Aunt Patricia had finally looked up. What about the business? Patricia asked. What happens to the business? The business will be tied up in legal proceedings for years, I said. Maybe longer. There's going to be a full investigation. All the assets are going to be frozen. The government is going to take what it's owed. My God, Patricia said. We have nothing. You have your integrity, I said. Or you have a chance to find it. That's more than he ever gave us. I walked to the door. My mother followed. Eleanor, she said. Where are you going? Home, I said. To my house. The one he gave me. The one that's legally mine. I'm coming with you. I looked at her. At the rings she'd bought at a department store. At the hands that had held my father's as he died. Okay, I said. Let's go. We walked out together. The snow was starting to fall again. The same snow that had fallen on Christmas. In the car, my mother stared out the window. The streetlights blurred past. Eleanor, she said. What you did tonight, I'm proud of you. Your father would be proud of you. I kept my eyes on the road. I know. That's what Janice Morrison said. His last words. He said he was proud of me. My mother turned to look at me. He said it to her. She just told me this week. She'd been holding on to it for 5 years. My mother was quiet for a long moment. I'm glad he knew, she said. I'm glad he knew before he died that you would be okay. I pulled into the driveway. The little house on Maple Street. My house. My home. I think I'm ready to believe that, I said. I think I'm finally ready to believe that I'm okay. We went inside. The kitchen was warm. I made tea. We sat at the table, my mother and me, and watched the snow fall through the window. New year, my mother said. A fresh start. Yeah, I said. A fresh start. The clock on the stove hit midnight. The year changed, and I didn't hear the fireworks. I didn't hear the parties. I just heard the quiet. And for the first time in 5 years, I felt at peace. The truth had set me free. It had cost me my grandfather. It had cost me my family. But it had given me something better. It had given me my life back. They say you can't choose your family, but you can choose what you do with them. You can choose to stand up. You can choose to fight back. You can choose to stop letting them make you small. I chose to fight. And I wonder, what would you have done in my shoes? Would you have been brave enough to speak the truth? Or would you have let him keep his secrets? Drop your verdict in the comments. Because this story isn't over. Not yet. Not for me. Not for the people who still have to decide whose side they're on. I'm Eleanor. And I'm finally free.